The following program is brought to you in part by Fin and Feathers on Edgewood Avenue here in Atlanta, where foodies delight and socialites come to play. Remember, Fin and Feathers. We hope to see you real soon. Welcome once again to Newsmakers Live. From the heart of Atlanta's historic Auburn Avenue district, Newsmakers Live is proud to present its 14th season of engaging conversations with our city's top policymakers. With just days until one of Atlanta's most hotly contested mayoral elections, Newsmakers Live provides this rare opportunity to meet our candidates in one-on-one conversations. And now, the moderator for our program, 8-time Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist and host of his own weekly online program, Talk to Me, here is Maynard Eaton.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition, this mayoral special edition of Newsmakers Live. I'm your host, Maynard Eaton. Jim Welcome and I have been doing this show for 14 seasons. I don't know if we've had a younger or more progressive, more dynamic mayoral candidate during those 14 years than the guest I'm about to introduce you to. His name is Antonio Brown, a 36-year-old city council member, and by far the sharpest dressing city council member, bar none, on the Atlanta City Council. Antonio, welcome to our show, and thank you for joining us.
Maynard, thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here with you all. And Jim, thank you for this opportunity.
You're opening your video, kicking off your campaign, says a time to reimagine Atlanta. And you quote what Maynard Jackson, the first guy ever covered running for mayor, talking about how there should be another side of Atlanta we need to address. And you say you're going to reimagine Atlanta again. Tell us about that. Are you saying Atlanta it's not the Black Mecca it's promised to be?
Absolutely. And I think that, through this election, it's interesting how one of the leading issues in this campaign has been crime. And as the conversations have developed, you've seen it shift to being really focused on generational poverty and addressing the root of the issues that have created what I call the side effects, and the side effects, one, crime, and some of the other ones, affordable, the other issue with.
So you talk about, again, the other Atlanta. You're the youngest person on the city council. Do you think you have the political cachet and clout to try and change this city around? Are you ready for this, sir?
Well, I think that's the problem. We need to separate the political clout, and we need to focus on the people and the real issues and addressing the root of these issues instead of continuing to band-aid these issues and only treating the symptoms instead of curing the cycle. And that's what's been happening in this city for 40 years. That's why I represent Black communities that have been represented by Black leadership for 40 years and have been left behind.
Why is that, you think? All talk, no action, where it's politicizing? Atlanta's known for being big talk and Black big talk. But honestly, you know that. I mean, we talk a good game.
We definitely talk a good game, and our actions don't live up to the things in which we say we're going to do. And I think that also has contributed to why so many people don't trust government. I believe that not only do they not trust government, but they're not even inspired to go out and vote. They're expecting this turnout to be extraordinarily low. And the reason for it is because folks are not inspired by anyone. They're tired of hearing politicians say all the right things, but never deliver on the promises in which they make.
Is saying all the right things, building more jails, arresting more people? That seems to be the collective solution to Atlanta's surging crime problem. Just arrest more folks. It doesn't seem to be symptomatic. No, I don't see any solutions to the symptoms.
I agree with you. I'm not sure if it's saying the right things. I think it's speaking to a specific demographic in Atlanta, North Atlanta, and more specific than that, Buckhead. And that's who I believe these candidates are catering to, because they believe that they cannot become mayor without the support of Buckhead standing alongside them in this mayoral race. But again, I mean, this is the reality. What we've been doing, there's, it's not working. And you know, I've told people before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting something different to happen. These candidates, every last one of them, not one of them is speaking about what I'm talking about. I'm talking about creating a socioeconomic shift where we move residents out of poverty into our working middle class by providing them access to a living wage job and health insurance, lifting up our middle working class, and really supporting our small businesses that have been left behind during this pandemic. And unfortunately, many have had to close their doors because of the lack of resources and opportunities within the city.
You have, I spoke to you earlier about your designer sweatshirts, but one of you said Atlanta is Wakanda, but it can be. You're saying we're nowhere near where we should be, in a sense? I mean, you're not joking there, are you?
No, so the sweatshirt says Atlanta is not Wakanda, but it can be. And you know, I mean, listen, I don't just talk the talk; I walk the walk, and no one can argue with that statement. How the hell are we going to be Wakanda when we have black people struggling to survive, having to choose between paying their rent or putting food on their tables or committing a crime to survive in this city? That's unacceptable. That's not Wakanda.
Back in the day, and you've heard it, you grew up with it. Atlanta, the tale of two cities, the haves and the have-nots. There are those who suggest it's not split anymore; it's just the haves.
I agree.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you definitely still have the have-nots because I represent them every day. But you can
Is that who
see,
you represent, sir? Is that who you represent, Antonio? That's who you think you represent?
I mean, I think I represent the folks that have not benefited from this
Yeah,
system in a very
yeah.
long time, right? The wealth has been concentrated at the top, and it started with the late Maynard Jackson in office through the airport and creating black millionaires in this city. But unfortunately, it didn't trickle down. And
I did.
not only did it not trickle down, but we did not have elected officials to really stand up and be a voice for the people and say it's not trickling down. And because of that, it has continued. And you have institutions and establishments in this city that have vested hundreds of millions of dollars in protecting those facades.
You also have a city now, too, is correct me if I'm wrong, that's not majority black anymore. I mean, we are kind of retreating from the city we helped make a world-class location. This is a majority white city by a few percentage points, is it not?
So no, it's still majority black. It's 52% black in this city. But to that point, if we don't begin to create an inclusive ecosystem for all of the residents in this city, it will become predominantly every other race but black, because you see now black people already cannot afford to live
Right,
here. They work in
right.
the city, but they cannot live in the city. And it's extremely unfortunate, you know. And I believe what's at the heart of that is politics, political interests, corporate interests, and not the people's interests.
Antonio, you're 36 years old. I didn't know you were that young. I know you got a mature facade and mouth about you, the way you speak. But that makes you the youngest candidate in this race for sure. And those who say you're polling at about 3.5 to 4%, is this just you're ringing the bell for another run down the road when you're a little older? Is this just a dry run for you to be mayor down the road?
So it's interesting, right? Everything I've ever done in my life, Maynard, I've done it following my spirit and being led by God. This race is not about winning or losing for me. God led me in this race, and I've remained in this race. This race is about my destiny. So, regardless of what happens, I've already surrendered, because whoever is meant to be mayor It has already been decided. And that person will lead this city to exactly where it's meant to go, right? So my destiny was to get in this race. And thank God that I did, because what I'm speaking about, no other candidate is talking
Right.
about. I
That's
don't hear
true.
one candidate talking about a socioeconomic shift. Why? Because most are so detached from the realities of what's happening in our communities, and or they don't have the faith and they don't have the will to believe in themselves enough to know that they can create that shift within Atlanta, you know. And not only do I want to create a socioeconomic shift, but I'm going to say something that's probably going to be very controversial, and many people will probably talk about it, and this is the first time I've ever mentioned it publicly. But I'm going to, as mayor, focus on bringing South Fulton back into the city of Atlanta.
Wow. 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 Why? What will that achieve? What will that do? What's the reason behind that?
Well, it's going to ensure that we have a supported city tax base that can sustain the needs of the city right now. Right now, we can't even afford to put sidewalks in communities that are in the vicinity of schools, and children are having to walk in the streets to walk to school. That's unacceptable. We can't even fix the potholes in our city, right? And by bringing South Fulton back into the city of Atlanta, we can really focus on rebuilding the city's tax base. We can ensure that South Fulton has proper representation on the city council. And we can ensure that Atlanta continues to be what it was meant to be, which is a city that is allowing African American people to thrive and prosper on an equal playing field and not being pushed out of our city.
Wow. Wow. That's a home run. That's a headline there, bro. On a, but that's what you're doing. That's the impact you're having in this race. You're making noise. Are people listening, sir? Are people listening to
Absolutely.
your dynamic? You're making some dynamic statements. I've been covering politics all my life. You're good.
Hey, let me tell you, people are listening, and if you don't believe it, ask yourself why at this close of the race that we're at, why do we have 41% undecided? If they
Yeah.
were choosing Felicia or Kasim, they would have already decided by now. They have a 97% name ID right now in
Right.
these in this city. Kasim has 100% name ID. So if these undecideds wanted to choose them, they would have already chose them by now. And if the young people get out to vote, I will make it into a runoff without a doubt. If the young people rise up, if our community activists and organizers who've been fighting against this unjust system, this broken public safety system, this broken city government, if they rise up, I will be elected and I will become the next mayor of Atlanta.
You also the first, to my understanding, first LGBTQ mayoral candidate. Is that going to be a nail in your campaigns moving forward? That's new, but that's a voting popularity, a voting segment that has been untouched, unmatched until now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, listen, our community makes up a substantial percentage
Yeah,
of the vote base
yeah.
in Atlanta. And we're also a community that's been left behind in this city for a very long time. I mean, I honored Little Nas X with a proclamation, and people went crazy and sent me hate messages and everything because they didn't feel like he deserved to be honored. Someone that is from Bankhead Courts, right here in the heart of Atlanta, should not be honored for being the first African American LGBTQ artist to be on the top 100 Billboard charts with the number one song in the country. That's insane to me. We've got to do more for our LGBTQ residents. We need to have a community center in place that will provide them a safe space where they can have access to resources and opportunities. And I'll tell you what, something else that's not getting a lot of attention that I think it should. As mayor, I made a commitment that I'm going to reduce the HIV/AIDS rates in Atlanta by 40% within the first 4 years of my administration.
Wow. Is is that a voting bloc? The LGBTQ, is that a voting bloc that's gone unnoticed? That's maybe more surprisingly strong in numbers than many people suspect.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And that's why a lot of candidates don't have strong platforms around LGBTQ issues. And because the organizations in Atlanta play politics, the LGBTQ organizations in Atlanta play politics, it's tough to really understand where the population really is when it comes to representation and who they are lining their vote with.
Antonio, I gotta say, somebody said to me when I told them I was about to interview you, they said, "Come on, man, the city of Spelman and Morehouse. You think Atlanta's gonna elect a high school dropout? Does that ever come up? Does that ever bother you? So this is Atlanta now, you know."
Hey, let me tell you, they need to, because their college educated peers are doing nothing to move Atlanta forward. And their college educated peers have left Atlanta behind for generations in this city. So, what good is a degree if you're not going to use it to lift up your fellow brothers and sisters? What good is a degree if you're not going to ensure you're building an ecosystem that's inclusive of all of its residents and not just focusing on an affluent class of residents? What good is that degree?
Where does that moxie come from? Where does that self confidence come from, man? What is it? I mean, is it much like your outfits? I mean, it's kind of bred in you because that takes it takes a man to say, "Listen, I got what it takes." You know.
Well, I've been through hell in my life.
Yeah.
I grew up in poverty. My mother and father were in and out of prison most of my childhood and young adult life. And I dropped out of high school. I took a full-time job, but I was able to wield my imagination to really see beyond my environment and conditions, overcome the adversity in my life, and I found success. I was able to build a men's fashion brand right here in the heart of Atlanta and grow it into a multi-million-dollar organization. And I did it never forgetting what got me there, which is God and my faith in God. So God instills that confidence in me. God has been preparing me my whole life for the moment in which we are in right now, whatever that may call for.
You've been indicted in a federal fraud case and headed to court sometime soon. Should voters be concerned about you as a person and your lifestyle at all, or are they out to get
Absolutely
you?
not. Well, I'm not going to make the statement that they're out to get me, but let me just say this. I have done more on council than most council members combined. I've passed over
Wow.
60 pieces of legislation, okay, to address some of the most complex issues this city has ever faced. I created a community loan fund for credit disadvantaged small businesses. It had never been done before. So while you have council members, speaking about the things in which they say that they've done and all the stuff, it was never a community loan fund created, and I did it. Not only that, but I created a study to look at establishing a Department of Public Safety and Wellness where we could have a non-emergency response unit that operates 24 hours a day to address quality of life issues like unsheltered population, mental health, and substance abuse. And then most recently, Georgia State University is studying a $250 million workforce development bond that, again, has never been done before in this country that will create thousands of living wage jobs for residents and provide them access to health insurance, okay? So I've done a lot of this after I was indicted, and it passed unanimously on council. So it's obvious the indictment hasn't stopped me from being able to do the great work that I've been able to do, thank God. And let's talk about this broken criminal legal system that we
Here we
exist
go.
within.
Here we go.
We tell folks that, you're innocent until proven guilty, yet We have a legal system where you have a prosecutor whose number one job is to prosecute you instead of understanding what is transpiring in hopes of being able to assist you. They're prosecuting you. So they present their evidence to a grand jury, and it's one-sided. You don't hear the defense. You don't hear my side. You don't hear my story, my explanation. And then they pass the verdict. And then that grand jury indicts me. And then they put out a press memo saying Councilman Brown has been indicted. So then they try to destroy me in the court of public opinion, because they know that the court of public opinion is the same court in which they have to go into to pull their jury to pass a verdict on me and convict me on charges. But then the court system has federal ethics rules where you can't publicly speak about the specifics of your case. So now that they've destroyed me in the court of public opinion, and I can't speak to the specifics of my case, you have the public that unfortunately a lot of times is not educated on what's really happening or even has the knowledge about our criminal legal system. And then they make a decision. He's guilty, without even understanding what transpired or what led to these moments. And I think it's extremely unfortunate, and this system needs to be fixed, and it must be reimagined immediately.
You like that word? That makes a lot of sense, because you're not the only one in that position, I'm sure, right? You're speaking for a lot of other folks, aren't you?
There's millions of people in this city. And let me tell you, Maynard, the unfortunate part about it is I was blessed enough to have a strong faith in God. I was blessed enough to understand that I could be relentless in the pursuit of my purpose in which God has led me on. And I didn't take a plea deal like most people do, because I know who I am. I know my innocence. I know what I did and did not do. And many people, when I was indicted, you should resign from council. You should no. Right. I'm not resigning from council.
I'm going to
continue. Yeah, I said I'm going to continue to do the work of the people. And this is never going to stop me, because I know my God. And I know my faith in my God. And I know all of this is happening within divine purpose and order. Now look at me. I'm running for mayor.
You see that move, y'all? I love it. I like your style, brother. I really do. I love you. I'm sorry. I can't talk about your politics, but the style is a winner. Finally, you hold a seat formerly held by Ivory Lee Young, my Hampton University classmate, rest his soul. During that time in that seat, and now doing this campaign, what have you learned about the city of Atlanta? And most of all, what have you learned about yourself?
So I'll tell you, I learned that a lot of times we speak about Atlanta from a place of a deficit, as though we don't have, which is why we're in the position that we're in. But I learned being on council that the reality is that we have plenty. Atlanta operates a $2.2 billion budget. We have plenty. It's not about how much we have. It's how we take what we have and equitably really spread it out so everybody can have some, and not concentrate it at the top and not allow it to trickle down to the people that need it the most. But one of the most important lessons I learned on council, because I'm a high school dropout and I never went to college and I'm not an attorney and I didn't go to an Ivy League school, I thought that I needed their validation to make me feel like I belonged there. And I realized that I didn't need their validation, that I did belong and that I was worthy, and that regardless of what I've been through in my life, God placed me in that seat for a purpose. And it's obvious now what that purpose is. I've been nothing but a voice for the people of this city. And I will continue to be a voice for the people of this city, no matter what plans God has for my life. And I want to say to everyone watching this, never allow someone to tell you you're not good enough or you can't do something because you didn't go to this school or because you didn't finish this or because you grew up poor or you grew up without something. You can be whatever the hell you want to be if you put your mind to it and your actions become a reflection of that which you seek in your life.
Antonio Brown, listen, man, I don't know about the man's race, but you're a winner already. You really are. And that last comment speaks volumes to many, many people who need a voice like you. They really do. So you're winning in that regard, bro. And good luck in the man's race.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Antonio, thank you so much for joining us again. This has been Newsmakers Live, a special edition with Council Member Antonio Brown. Clean as can be.
Thank you, Rainer.
I thought he was good.